An exotic escape in Curacao.
Here, it's like I have my own business. They allow you to be free. They don't have you in a prison like other places.
Is Campo Alegre the answer to the region's issue of illegal prostitution?
The government put the system to protect that woman and the public health and the neighbors.
But is it a haven for criminal activity and sin?
Cuando el seguridad abrió, yo vi a mi hermana tirada en el piso y ya estaba muerta.
And later, erotic or unsafe, dancehall moves that border on the extreme. Is the video light worth the risk, or is there more money to be made playing it safe?
From dancing, you can feed your family, you can travel overseas, you can get yourself international notoriety.
All this and more on this episode of 18 Degrees North. Hello, I'm Zara Burton and welcome to 18 Degrees North. It's from right here in Kingston, Jamaica, 18 degrees north of the equator, that every week we're going to take you on a global journey with us as we focus on Caribbean stories that have global impact. We begin our show with the oldest profession in the world, prostitution. In most of the Caribbean, prostitution is taboo but tolerated and definitely illegal. But in some pockets of the region, it's not just tolerated, it's taxed. Curaçao's Campo Alegre is one of them, and it's been around for almost 70 years. With this, Campo claims it's helping reduce the spread of disease among sex workers and keeping the profession safe, all while helping to drive the country's tourism industry. So should Campo's approach to sex tourism be a model for the rest of the Caribbean? Or is it simply a sanctuary for sin? We investigate now in Curaçao at 12 degrees north and 69 degrees west. This is Curaçao, home of culture, rest, and recreation. Recreation like this 70-year-old brothel, Campo Alegre. Foreign women like Camilla from Colombia apply to the government to work here.
You have to submit your passport, full body photos and document-sized photos, and the letter which affirms that I am going to work as a sexual worker and my responsibilities.
Camilla, not her real name, doesn't want to appear on camera because most people back home don't know she's doing sex work here.
The men come here in the room. I arrange everything myself, the money, I arrange with them myself. I came here out of necessity, and I receive more money. If it wasn't so, I wouldn't come.
Camilla told us she makes around $220 a day. Out of that, she has to pay for her food and $60 a night for her room. At Campo, Camilla says a real draw is freedom.
All they want to know is you pay for the room. You have to pay every day, or you have to leave. Here, it's like I have my own business. They allow you to be free. They don't have you in a prison like other places.
Marlon Regales has operated Campo for about 10 years.
She is a businesswoman. She does the business by herself. She don't have a PM. She don't have a chief. She don't have nothing.
He says Campo is good for the women and good for Curaçao's tourism industry too. Regales says Campo makes sales of $4 million per year, similar to the size of a small hotel, and about 1/3 of his roughly 400 clients each day is tourists.
Yeah, we got some people who fly in. They're gonna stay 5 days, 7 days, some 2 days. They come and they stay in Campo, and they come only for this.
Campo Alegre, or Happyfield, got its start in the 1940s. Allied forces working in Curaçao during World War II triggered widespread prostitution on the island. The government, law enforcement, and an unlikely partner, the Catholic Church, moved to confine prostitution to one end of the island. They aimed to stop the spread of disease and preserve the sanctity of local women who to this day are still forbidden to work there. Instead, foreign women like Camilla get a work permit for 3 months. During their stay, they must submit to regular medical tests.
He must pay us every day the rent, and he must go once a week, must go to the doctor for a medical check.
If they test positive for serious diseases like HIV, they must leave. Even public health specialist Izzy Gerstenblatt, who has reservations about Campo, says there HIV is not a concern.
And I spoke to the physician that's there for a couple of years. The past few years there were 0 HIV positives at Campo.
Still, for all the stated virtues of Campo, there are drawbacks. For starters, we found the medical tests are not weekly as advertised, but once for HIV at the beginning of the lady's stay and every 2 weeks for other diseases. That's according to the doctor who works at Campo and Camilla.
Every 2 weeks, you get charged 25 guilders for a medical visit for the vaginal swab.
Even then, this swab just tests for gonorrhea and chlamydia. If they test positive, the doctor who works at Campo told us, the women are treated and still work because they must pay the rent.
To pay their room every day. It's about saying to them they cannot work because they would get in problems with the Campo then. So we tell them that for a certain amount of money you will do it without a condom, but please, these days you have this and this, you can affect other people, please use a condom. Yeah, they are supposed to use the condom every day when they are there working, but if they have one of those illnesses, we pressure on them again, please use a condom.
Dr. Madura's advice is different from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control medical guidelines that state persons should abstain from sex while undergoing treatment for chlamydia. We also wondered about the risk to clients who may be unaware of the latest status.
Places like Campo that you give out of your hands and that they are run by private citizens that of course have profit margins in their head. You need to be wary of possible effects in terms of misuse and abuse of sex workers, because if it's all about money, of course most people would pay more money to have sex without using condoms.
And it's not just inside Campo, it's outside too. Though one of the main goals of Campo was to confine prostitution to one end of the island, in Curacao, the activity is widespread.
From research that we did in our department about 10-15 years ago, we know that Campo only represents a tip of the iceberg in terms of sex work.
And since soliciting for sex is illegal outside Campo according to Curacao law, it's harder for public health workers to reach these kinds of workers to promote safe sex. In fact, Gerstenblatt says Curaçao's HIV incidence overall has risen steadily since the 1980s.
If you would have a legalized prostitution on the island, then we would have a reason to come up and at least we will have laws behind us and make it obligatory for all people working in the sex industry that we would be able to test them.
Should there be more Campos?
No, there should
prostitution on the streets.
No, there should be legalization.
But getting to full legalization of prostitution in Curacao has hurdles. In fact, though the Catholic Church helped establish Campo, some in the religious community are opposed, like Leander Warren, who heads the Council of Churches that includes Catholics.
Churches have been split right down the middle on a lot of these things. And here on Curacao, Campo Alegre is one such where the church is struggling, you know, from my perspective as a pastor, and from my study and what I'm convinced of at this moment, because, you know, there's a biblical saying that, hey, the body is the temple of God, and I do not believe then that it should be reduced to a commodity.
Even Curaçao's director of tourism admits that although Campo attracts tourists and the government collects a 7% tax on the rooms that the girls rent, moral issues stand in the way of the country marketing Campo.
We don't want to promote sex tourism. I think we want people to come to visit the island, to visit our beaches, enjoy the sun, enjoy our culture, history, and things like that. And at a certain stage, it will bring also illegal activities with it.
Campo has already seen illegal activities. In 2002, the brothel's owners at the time, Giovanni Van Ireland and Leslie Franklin, were convicted of drug and money laundering crimes. And later in 2009, after an early release from prison, Curaçao media reported Van Ireland was gunned down in broad daylight. Even for the women, though Camilla assured us that at Campo she feels secure,
I feel safe because if anything should happen with a client, I activate an alarm behind that door and they can come and fix the problem.
We found this video on YouTube from 2013 of a woman who says her sister was strangled at Campo.
Buscamos seguridad, el seguridad vio, y ya cuando el seguridad abrió, yo vi a mi hermana tirada en el piso y ya estaba muerta.
And there are also concerns about trafficking. Though Campo denies this, and a researcher who studied Campo in the 1990s told us she found no evidence of trafficking there, a 2017 U.S. State Department report states women from South America and other Caribbean countries in the regulated commercial sex industry are vulnerable. It also cites media reports of Venezuelan women working illegally as prostitutes in roadside bars outside Campo that may be vulnerable to trafficking.
Because of the situation in Venezuela, now we got a lot of women from Venezuela who are working in the bars, and there's a lot of problem with the human trafficking and human commerce.
Different versions of Campo have cropped up in the neighboring Dutch Caribbean islands of Aruba and St. Martin over the years, just like there's a red light district in their former parent country, the Netherlands. But with little effect to show in clamping down on prostitution, reducing disease, or preventing crime, the question remains, is Curaçao's regulated prostitution really good for society, or simply good for a few in business? Coming up on 18 Degrees North, should the Caribbean legalize sex work?
The best way to protect women and girls is to make sure that those who are doing sex work can do it safely.
We speak to Liesl Gernholz, Executive Director of the Human Rights Watch, when we come back on 18 Degrees North.